Hey y'all, it's me. Coming on wiser, better, living. So, in this last week, after I got back from the retreat, I didn't realize how much grief I was going to be going through. And I think in this era, it's weird. In this last week's, a lot of signs of grief have been showing up in my every day. So I don't know if this is also affecting you. And grief can come in so many different versions. You can be grieving an old self. You can be grieving old friends. You can be grieving what doesn't exist anymore, the political system, the world you once knew. So many different things can bring up grief. But for myself, I think it was like after that whole event I went to, and I pinpointed a point of healing that I have to do. I also traded in some guides, etc. And not for nothing, I feel like, sometimes when you spend a lot of time coping, like sometimes you don't know that that's what you're doing until you're confronted with something, and then you realize, oh shit, I was coping, not moving through the grief, right? And then oddly enough, I started seeing some patterns with persons falling away. Like in the last months, I noticed that some of the main patrons that I was really friends with on here have disappeared. And I think that was also contributing to it. Like there was a gentleman, Chucho. He was swimming through the void. He was a tarot reader that I used to watch all the time. And recently he started doing lives all of a sudden. And he was talking about his disparaging situations and things of that nature. And like a week and a half ago, he passed away. He was only 37. And that kind of like hit me because I was like already going through this grief, right? And then here's this person. And I'm not saying I was like besties, like far from it, but you'll notice in this culture, and I'm sure a lot of you guys know, as I've come to know, that we depend highly on our little, cult following that we have between each other. And I know that there's certain persons that I lean on, and there's certain persons that lean on me, etc. And I think it's a beautiful thing that we acquire here on YouTube. And we don't really know like how far it reaches, even though we might have X amount of subscribers. You never know how many people have seen you personally, right? Or what you've done for them, or vice versa. And I feel like this guy Chucho, like he was very very open-minded. He was very wise beyond his years, and I always admired him for that because he was younger than me. And then it's like I started thinking about all the persons on YouTube that touched me that no longer are here. There was this older woman, 70 something, Elizabeth. She had a channel about riding horses, and she was godly, and she disappeared. And then there's a couple other cats that disappeared throughout the years, and rightfully so. But then there was Danny with Heliology, and then there was this older woman, I think in her late 70s. She was from Oregon. She had remnant connections. She used to just come on and do prayers, and she disappeared too. So it could be from old age. It could be from, because she was so devout. She was on every day doing prayers. She was one of those persons that pray for large groups of people. I forget what that's called. But once Chucho passed away, I thought about how this all kind of clicked in with the grief and grieving I'm still going through. I think the grieving has levels, like all of our grief. They say that there's stages of grief that we all go through. And I've known that for a long time when it came to persons that passed away that were near and dear to my heart. And I think that I'm kind of grieving parts of myself, so it's a little different. And if you are feeling this way too, hopefully, like, I'm not alone in this, and I don't think I am. Because like I said, we can be grieving many things, right? Like you can even grieve like your child who's growing out of a stage of life, right? So there's so many different things. But then oddly enough, a very close neighbor 2 doors down, she died as well. And she wasn't even that old, 60 years old. She died of a heart attack, dropped like a fly. One night I was walking my dog and I just saw all these ambulances show up. And for the life of me, I was like, uh-oh, like who passed away or who's in trouble here? But because it took so long, I know someone died because they were waiting for the coroner. And I was like, wow, that's like two people, that stand out. Like they weren't, again, not super close, but in proximity. And it was all around the same time I was dealing with grief, right? And then this is weird, but I got to bring it up. I've been waiting for Avatar: Last Airbender. It's a show I love quite dearly. And the reason why is because it reminds me of my teenage years. When it first came on Nickelodeon, I was a teenager. I think I was 16, 17. And I used to go to my aunt's house. She took care of me at that time. I left my parents' house for some time. And she was like a mom to me. And all through that time that I lived with her, Last Airbender was just premiering on Nickelodeon. So when I saw the signage that the second season was coming, the human version, which I've been waiting to see, I just kind of thought like, oh shit, like that makes me like grieve a time of my life where, things were different. And I don't know why, but grief can like have its snippets here and there in many different ways. And I don't know why I had to come in and talk about it, but I've been feeling like grief is something that's in the air. I feel like it's something that maybe more persons are feeling. And I feel like in some ways this channel is really amazing because it's not just about likes and shares, it's about what we share together. Like I don't know why. It's like all of this kind of futility just made me think like, what if I never came on here again? What if something happened to me? And I'm not saying like, I'm dying. That's not what I mean. But it's like, that's how like fast things can happen. And same with how we feel about grief. It can turn overnight as well. Like they say that, time heals all, and it does. I mean, I've had to grieve other things in my life, and I'm still waiting on some, waiting for time to pass so that it changes or morphs it. But some connections are so strong that they never seem to fade away. Like I've had one paralyzing situation, or yeah, a situation, I'll leave it at that, that's kind of held me in stasis for almost more than a decade. And no matter what I do and where I go, the situation follows me. It's always followed me. It's not something I really talk about or share, but it has to do with a person. And I've grieved this person many, many times. I've grieved the fact that they're not in my life. I've grieved the fact that what I thought or was form of limerence never came to be. Was it limerence? Was it real? It's like as if I've been, dodging and grieving a ghost for someone who still exists. And that's what I mean. It's like sometimes our ideas, our wishes, our wants can be grieved too. Because sometimes you can want something wholeheartedly so badly, or you feel like you're meant to have it, or it was supposed to be yours. Or it's the best way I could describe it is like when somebody, if you've ever been in racing, I used to swim professionally for most of my teenage life. And I remember I had to split a gold medal with a woman because we literally had the exact same, like we hit the board or we got clocked at the same time. And we had to split it. And in some ways, I felt like I was cheated out of what I believed to be mine. Why? Because you train so hard. Why? Because you feel like, what if, it was done by the eye of a person? What if that person just didn't catch it in time? I could have been the silver or the real gold. You know what I'm saying? So many things play in your mind. So sometimes it's not even about something that is a death. It's an idea. It's a formulation of what you feel you're deserving of. So when it gets taken away from you, there's a grief because you're like, wow, like I worked so hard for this, or I always felt like this was to be mine. And when it doesn't pan out the way you believe or feel like it should, there's something that to be said with the grief there too. And that happens a lot to us in our lives. Like, I know for myself, I always wanted a lot of kids, and I did, God graced me with one. But there's times that, especially when I'm throwing my son's stuff out from when he was a baby, I sit there and I'm like, fuck, like, I had always wished that, I had had the family and the husband and all that stuff. And I think a lot of us have those. Like, we have a lot of things that we feel like we are deserving of, and we don't seem to manifest. Like, it's weird to say because, I haven't gotten a handle fully on manifestation. Like, there's a lot of things that come to us sometimes easily because we don't have a lot of strings of attachment to them, so they formulate easier than other things. But for myself, let's say, like, I spend a lot of my time, like, just out there in the world, and I think I put my best face forward. I think I show people who I am. I'm kind of an open book, And when it comes, like, as you guys know, I've been single and pretty much celibate at this point. I made a promise to myself. I was like, well, until I meet somebody worthwhile, like, I'm not even going to think in that direction, And it's a promise that has been really sad to keep, and at the same time kind of like, wowza, like, I didn't know how bad the pool is. Like, when you take alcohol and poor decision making and things of like non-healed emotional like, I used to be someone who was led a lot by emotions, and it's not to say that I am not, but I feel like I've healed a lot of my pain and my grief and of different, my value system, things of that nature. So it's like, once I did a lot of that healing, like, I really couldn't be the old person I used to be that used to make excuses for people, etc. And when you're not excusing bad behavior, and when you're not drinking, and you have your, clear head of discernment on, especially discernment, like, it's really hard to find people that you can even like jive with, let alone date, let alone, fall in love with. It's not easy out there. And ironically, like, they always say, like, oh, whatever you are inside or you feel, your vibration is, it will draw those that are of equal measure. I'll be honest, I seem to get the creepiest of creeps try to talk to me. Like, it's funny, like, all the dudes that I think are worthwhile are chicken shit and don't say anything to me, and unless I open up conversation, it's like zip, and then there's the ones that will not shut up, and they're creepy, and they have no problem talking to me. And I'm just like, what, am I a creep? Is this me, like, projecting my creepiness out there? I must be creepy, because if that's all I seem to get, like, I'll give you an example today. I met up with my friend. We were hosting this like free reading DJ thing at the park by one of my, not far from here, and I was offering readings and she was DJing, and we were just doing this kind of cool thing in the park, large park here. And this guy, the last guy I had, he was like, oh, he's trying to pick me up. Like, I could fully tell, okay? He's 61, and not for nothing, I'm 40. I'm not saying I'm an ageist. That's not it at all. But his revealment of, like, he's like, oh, you're so beautiful, if I was 21 and 20 years younger, he tells me he has, ER, which I didn't even know. I was like, why you need to go to the ER? ED. And I was like, what is that? And he's like, oh, I just want to go for coffee. I have ED. I'm not going to try to hit on you or whatever. And I'm like, what is that? So this guy goes and tells me it means that he has erectile dysfunction. I'm like, what world? Like, not like, what world is A, are you telling me this? 2, do you think that's a flattering point? And 3, like, I'm here offering a service and you're using it to then try to pick me up, like, as if that's attractive. Like, it's basically like a person who's like at McDonald's trying to serve you a Big Mac combo, and they're trying to pick you up because you have no choice but to stand there. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, buddy, like, And that's not just, it happens a lot. Like, I went to this other event and I see him very high vibing, you know what I mean? And like the one dude who comes to talk to me, he's like, hey, you want to do a bump? And I'm like, what? I'm like, A, do I look like I do blow? Two, I'm not into people who do blow. I didn't say this to him, but I was just like, well, of all these people, how is this who I attract? So I feel like in some ways I'm grieving the person that I feel and know in my heart of hearts I deserve in some ways as well. Because as the years roll on, I feel like this elusive person slips farther and farther from my fingers, because I'm like, if this is all there is out there who keep trying to talk to me, I'm in big trouble. Like, I'm not trying to, it's like in some ways I'm not looking for perfect. I feel like everybody has their own imperfect ways of being, and that's totally perfect to me. But it's like, in what world do I like put out this vibe? And if I do, then I have to do a lot more reflection. And I think that's what I'm grieving too. It's like, obviously, something's not meshing. And I think when we're in grief, it's for so many different illustrious reasons. It's for who we thought we would be at a certain time. It's for, where we find ourselves. It's for people that have passed, who we are in relation to those that have passed. How does a passing affect us, even if they're not closest to us? Why does it affect us? Does it make us wrestle with our own mortality? And have we accomplished all we wanted to before our time's ends? Like, there's so many things that, like, this emotion of grief challenges. It's not just death. It's deaths of many forms. Deaths to ideas, deaths to belief systems, deaths to, so obviously with every death there is a rebirth. So I do kind of encourage that. But when you're going through it, it is quite arduous. It is quite difficult. So if you too are going through this form of grief of any kind, what I'll say to you is just be gentle with yourself. It is a process. Like, you have to go through the stages. Denial, like I have been going through recently too, because I'm like, I'm obviously in denial and I think I'm a fantastic person, and yet I keep meeting these fucking degenerados, so it's like, obviously I gotta understand energy. And it's like, if this is all I'm getting fed back throughout the years, it's not just like today or what happened last month. It's like ongoingly. And I'm like, okay, I gotta reflect on that. And then I think of like the wounds and things that we all have to work through and what that means for us. And then it's actual grief for persons that we've lost and our mortality and what that means. And, kind of being gentle, looking at it with an open mind and giving ourselves that allowance of time, because like everyone says, time is the only thing that changes anything, really. However, in my case, there is this one situation and one person that time has never changed anything. It's always been there. And no matter how I try to shake it or change the situation or, run away from it, it always drags me back, or something shows up in the universe or something brings me back to them. And time hasn't done anything but make it more insistent. And I have to look at that too. It's like, why is it always never going away? And then it makes you think, like, maybe there are things we have to face within the grief. So I just wanted to say what's up, because I've been going through this in this last weeks, and I just thought that I'd bring it up. So I do want to say to those that I am, follow me, that listen to my videos, we are a familia in one way or form, because I feel like there is more to likes and shares here. It's about sharing our lives. So love you lots. Peace out.